Hello and welcome back. I hope you could enjoy the break and answer all of the questions. It was easy. So let's continue with the certification. When we talk about the certification, we will talk about the eSIM services and the GSMA RSP compliance, and also about the additional compliance testing. So yes, what is required to gain GSMA compliance? We have, on one hand side, we have functional compliance testing. This is the kind of testing where all entities involved are compliant to applicable standards. We'll verify that the entities are really compliant. We're checking the functional interface, that they work properly. And we have the security testing. This is kind of testing where the eSIM infrastructure must prove that it is secure and well protected. Since we have sensitive data inside of it, you remember all of the keys, different type of keys inside of this architecture, and therefore it's really important to conduct the security testing. Let's go one by one and talk about what is required to receive or to gain the GSMA compliance. Okay, let's start with the SGP24, because yes, we have to go to the either to SGP24 or to SGP16 to take a look on what is required for the compliance. We'll start with the SGP24 because it was actually before, so historically, this specification was defined before the MTM one, so it was more important at that time and or more needed from the market, and therefore we had this specification for the consumer devices. Okay, let's start with the EUSSC compliance. First of all, what is required? First of all, so the EUSSC manufacturer has to prove the manufacturing security. So being the accredited supplier according to the security accreditation scheme. Therefore, there is so-called the SAS-UP, security accreditation scheme for the products, so for the EUSSC itself, actually. And then in addition, it has to verify that the EUSSC itself, the card, is secure. This is the so-called platform security. So this is, you probably know, the common criteria standards, and there were different levels of the security assurance, and depending on the importance and the general levels, so I would say the level in the middle. So there is the EL4+. This is the level which is required to verify the security. So they have to prove that they are compliant on this level to the security standards and to the protection profile. Functional testing. Yes, functional testing. So there is a certification program for this, and so this certification program includes. So this is the testing according to SGP23, and this is performed by a global platform. The idea behind this testing is that for the EUSSC side, so the EUSSC is removable, therefore all of the interfaces can be tested. Okay, after verifying the functional compliance, or proving the functional compliance according to the SGP23, this three specifications, or proofs, will be submitted to the GSMA, and the GSMA performs an evidence check on this. Yes, there was a compliance declaration required, so according to the SGP24 Annex A1 for the RSP product declaration, and Annex A3 details of declared EUSSCs. And at the end, if everything is fine, there will be the digital certificate issued by the GSMA certificate issuer, GSMA CI. So this certificate will be issued to the EUM, and then so we can continue with this product can participate in the RSP ecosystem. Otherwise, it's not possible. Yes, and last but not least, the EUSSC compliance will be shown on the GSMA pages. For the server side, so for the SMDP Plus and SMDS compliance, actually we talk here about the alternative SMDS compliance because the root SMDS is deployed by the GSMA. Okay, but first of all, so the manufacturers has to prove the operation security, similar to manufacturer security of the EUSSC manufacturing. So there is a need for there to become an accredited supplier. There is a need to comply to the security accreditation scheme for SM Subscription Manager. So there is a different one. Yes, again, there is a need for verification of the functional testing, but in this case, we don't have the standardization certification body to prove the functional compliance. So in global platform, so the process goes in the way, so for the ERCs, the process goes in the way that first of all, the test tools will be certified. And then, yes, similar with the GCF and PTCRB, the test tool needs to be certified first. And then by testing with the certified tools, the product can be shown as a compliant product. Okay, here in this case, we don't have the compliance program for the test tools, because on the server side, it's on the one hand side, very difficult to test it. So because we don't have a physical product, and also because, for the same reasons, it's maybe less critical. So when the physical product is on the market, then it's difficult to update this if there are some issues on the field, but it's different with the servers. So currently the GSMA didn't agree to the any certification scheme, so therefore only the self-declarations are existing. But still, this declaration needs to be done according to the GSMA 23 for the server testing. So you still have to run all of the GSMA SGP 23 defined test cases for the server side, maybe plus even vendor-specific functional test. Yes, but there's still a list, and the proof of the, for example, the test reports required. Yes, and then we have the SMDP Plus and SMDS compliance declaration can be requested by GSMA, providing the Annex A for the A1 for the RSP product declaration, Annex A4 for details of declared SMDP Plus, or Annex A5, details of declared SMDS. By the end, if everything went fine, so you will receive the digital certificate from the certificate issuer for your SMDP Plus or SMDS. And with this certificate, you can participate on the all of the RSP procedures. You will have the authentication proof and using this digital certificate. So it's technically become possible. There is a link to this certificate. Before you have it, you cannot participate in the ecosystem without this digital certificate from the GSMA. Yes, and last but not least, the final compliance. So it will be declared on the GSMA webpage. For the device compliance, functional testing is required. Yes, this functional testing is performed by GCF at PTCRB using also certified tools. Yes, and so there will be a proof for the specific test cases defined for the device according to the work items in GCF, for example, and similar to PTCRB. On the PTCRB side, yes, you will have to be compliant according to this work items scheme. And GCF even defined the specific scheme for RSP only. So you have to prove only that you are compliant to the RSP, not to all of the GCF specification required for the telecommunication. So for GSMA and to receive, to comply to the evidence check and to be listed on the web page, you need only to comply to our RSP scheme. Yes, to declare this to GSMA, there's still Annex A1 to be fulfilled or completed on the RSP product declaration. The Annex A2 with the details of declared device, including the standalone certification reference in accordance to the GCF PTCRB RSP requirements. This is what is needed. You can see here we don't have the digital certificate because if you remember, there was not digital certificate inside of the device. There was only the trust anchor certificate from the CI to verify the server compliance or the authenticity of the server, the SMDP Plus, for example. Yes, but the authenticity of the device is not verified. So since there is no digital certificate for it, and for technical reasons also, it was not possible. Okay, I hope it's clear now. It helps. If you have questions, please send me an email. Let's go to the M2M world. Okay, as I said before, so historically the SGP16 existed, so started to be defined later on, so after the consumer device scheme existed, and to allow, so to roll on with the RSP procedures and the services. So there was some exceptions were made at the beginning. So for the early adopters, so they received the digital certificates without the showing the fully compliance verification. They are listed on the GSMA web pages. Was at the very beginning. But nowadays the SGP16 applies and the M2M products are tested according to the compliance scheme given in the SGP16. Here we have so all in one, so similar to what has been defined to the for the consumer devices. So we still have to prove the manufacturing security according to the SASUP. They have to show that the EUSCC is compliant to the common criteria, so evaluation level 4+, and the functional testing has to be performed according to the SGP11. And after showing all of these certificates, sending this to GSMA, the digital certificate will be issued by the GSMA, the CI, and the product will be listed on the compliance page of the GSMA. Again, similar to the consumer devices, so we have the SMDP and the SMSR compliance scheme. So we need again the operation security to show that the manufacturer is the accredited supplier. So according to the SAS SM scheme. Then they need to show the functional testing, so the self-testing, according to the SGP11 test cases. And after showing all this, they will receive, the manufacturer will receive the digital certificate from the GSMA with a final compliance being listed on the web page. Compliance testing. Let's summarize what we have right now. For the functional RSP compliance test, for consumer devices, according to the GSMA 21 and 22, we have the tests defined in the SGP23 test specification, defined by GSMA. We have the Trusted Connectivity Alliance defined specification for the EUSCC profile package interoperable format of that profile. They're covered by also GCF or PTCRB mobile devices and user equipment schemes, certification programs, and global platform EUSCC certification program. So the SMDP Plus and SMDS service by self-certification, according to the SGP23. The functional RSP compliance tests for M2M devices according to GSMA SGP01 and SGP02 are defined in the SGP11 test specification by GSMA. The former SIM Alliance, now Trusted Connectivity Alliance, specification for EUSCC profile package interoperable format covering EUSCC certification by global platform, and the SMDP and SMSR server side. But there is still a need for additional compliance testing. So to show that your product complies to the already existing standards. We have many standards to verify your product compliance. You still don't forget the regular tests on the UICC, USIM or ISIM, CSIM capabilities must be tested. This is outside of the GSMA scope of the compliance program, but still may be required by your customer, or you can require this from your manufacturers or suppliers. So yes, ensure that EUSCC compliance by executing the applicable test cases defined in ETSI, 3GPP or 3GPP2 or global platform. Yes, and RSP procedures require certain device capabilities. So please ensure that the devices are compliant according to the schemes defined in ETSI or 3GPP or 3GPP2. Let's go, it was too fast, sorry. Let's go to the security accreditation scheme, more detailed. So we talked about the tests on the functional testing, but let's go and take a look on the security part. We have the security accreditation scheme to become the accredited supplier. This scheme enables mobile operators, regardless of their resources or experiences, to access the security of the UICC and embedded SIM suppliers and of the embedded SIM subscription management service providers. Okay, we have two schemes, as I mentioned already, so the SAS for UICC production side and the SAS for subscription management side. Let's take a look to the UICC production side. Actually, this is a well-established and voluntary scheme operating successfully since 2000, through which UICC manufacturers can show that the production sites and processes are comprehensive, so they go through the security audit and show that they are compliant to the security requirements. Yes, and if the security audit is successful, then they are awarded with a security accreditation for a period of 1 year. And this can be extended to 2 further years upon each successful renewal. Yes, this scheme has already accredited some of the industry's largest UICC suppliers. You can take a look on the scheme. So on the link, so by clicking on the link on your handouts. Yes, and GSMA also provides advice to its members on how to use the scheme. So if you have questions, please, there is a specific address by GSMA. The scope of the scheme has recently been broadened to include the production of embedded SIMs. On the subscription management side, we have, SAS for subscription management to ensure industry confidence in the security of remote provisioning for embedded SIM. The successful model for SAS accreditation was taken over from the UICC production and it was reused to enable security audit and accreditation of the providers of embedded SIM subscription management services. There is a protection profile, which evaluates the security features of IT products and systems. The protection profile for the GSMA embedded SIM detects a security problem if one arises and then specify the requirements needed to address this. Okay, this is the scheme actually applied in the common criteria area. And yes, this protection profile is also certified by the German BSI. This is the German Federal Office for Information Security, which is one of the common criteria certification bodies. Yes, SGP 05 is the according document to SGP 25. Yes. After evaluation of the UICC implementation of the protection profile requirements, the UICC will be certified according to the common criteria evaluation level 4+. Checking the manufactured UICC, then compliance to the protection profiles. There is a security target in these documents. And then we have the certification by the end. Okay, this was the summary for the existing schemes on the functional testings and the security testings. But sometimes, additional testing is required, or it's maybe the first step for the testing, or then the step for some specific features. So what might be required. So let's take a look what is possible in this area, of additional testing. You heard already of the interoperability testing, live event. So this was the live interoperability test event by GSMA. So where everything was with the live systems and the test tools could be used to to find the reason for some problems, because in the interoperability testing it's difficult to. You can finally see the results, if something is working or not. But if something is not working, you can see, therefore you can use the test tools. Okay, let's go and see what is possible in the interoperability testing. Okay, you probably know the situation. So actually I'm working now since many years in the area of testing and test tools, and it's always the same. So sometimes each single component seems to be compliant and is certified as a compliant component, and then afterwards you put all of these things together, and in the whole chain of the process, and they just don't work for some reasons. It's probably always, sometimes it's a lack of the definitions inside, or there's a gap in the definitions of the standards. And this is one of the reasons why it's not working. So because there was some interpretation, and so there's several interpretations, or some ambiguity that was not visible at the beginning, and especially for those who defined the standards. And you can be sure if there is some ambiguity in the standard, so if you didn't write it down, so if it's a 0 or the 1, you can be sure that somebody will think that this is a 0 and somebody will think this is a 1. So this is my experience, and therefore it's quite important to have this interoperability testing. And also the system integration testing to see if the infrastructure of the eSIM services are prepared and correctly adapted. Okay, yes, involved components have to be compatible. So we have the subscription manager on one hand side, device in the middle, and the EUSSC. Yes, they have to be compatible to reduce the complexity of interoperability testing and getting a look inside by replacing one real entity by a simulation. This is the existing process. Actually, okay, when we test, when we run the regular functional tests, we have this separated, so we tried mostly separate this product, so this component from the other parts, and the other parts are all simulated. So here it's a bit different approach, so we can simulate different parts, and we can keep some parts of the system as real and put some parts so in the middle, some of the real components. Let's take a look one by one. When we have the subscription manager simulation, by using this, we can test the device, and we can have the device and EUSSC as a real product. Okay, this is on the example of the consumer devices, but it can be used also for the M2M. If we have the device simulation, so then the other parts can be real. So for example, the subscription manager and the EUSSC. Yes, this was actually used in one of the proof of concepts, similar to the live interoperability test event by GSMA. Yes, it was used for the M2M side when the subscription manager was a real one from one manufacturer. Then we have the device simulation in the middle to avoid the errors coming from the device or to track. So there was a possibility to spy on this and see where is the error coming from. And then, so the EUSSCs were also real, but coming from a different manufacturers. So being at home and your manufacturing side alone with your products, you might have your own subscription manager and your own EUSSC. But what happens, and yes, you might have tested this also with different devices. But what happens if the subscription manager is from one manufacturer, the EUSSC from another manufacturer? Yes, and therefore it was helpful to have some stable simulation in the middle, so which is applicable for all of the components and all of the same. So we used our Comprion product for this, and we hosted this event. Okay, yes, similar. So if we have the EUSSC simulation, so then the SMDP Plus and the device can be tested, or the LPA. Let's go to the system integration testing. So here it's more complicated because then we have the operator involved, and the operator components are part of this testing scheme. Therefore, so this is what we have done in some of the projects. Also, we used a subscription manager simulation, so partially. So the simulated device partially simulated EUSSC, therefore it was easy to have this first step of the testing. And yes, prepare and adapt operator infrastructure at an early stage. Or what do you do if you discover some issues? Okay, this is just an example of this kind of the device simulation, so you can have a kind of perfect device. Yes, as a simulated device, or at least a device where you can adjust everything what you need. And you have access to everything what you need. And so here on the scheme, so you can see, so you have the some components, there's SMDP Plus, the device, and the EUSSC, and the diagram you can see all of the commands going there and for. And you can click on each of the command. So yes. Here in this case, this is a device with local profile assistant, but it's applicable for both. And actually, it exists before. So in Comprion we defined this one, or it was used also by GSMA, but before the M2M one was used before the consumer devices one. And using this visualization of the communication flow, it was easy then to detect. You can see all of the processes, the commands, and you have always the translation of the communication data. Not everyone can easily read the bits and bytes and translate them. Oh, this is this command. Oh, this is the download command. So I know people can do this. Somebody can do this, and especially engineers if they are working closely with this. But normally it's difficult, and therefore it's good to have this translated. And especially so if it's encrypted, then nobody can use this. So yes, it's good to have the translation to the real data from the encrypted one. Okay, so then afterwards you will see and have the scheme, so defining so the single components parts with a subscription manager simulation, and again the visualization of the communication flow and translation of communication data. So here you can see even a JSON example, so being used on the server side. Okay, let's test your knowledge again, and I have some questions for you, and same game as before. So if you're good with, if it's easy for you to answer all of these questions, then you're good to go. And if not, so please take a look on the handouts or go back into the presentation and check it once again. What is required for ERC certification? What is required for the SMD Plus certification? Ta-da! What is required for device certification? Yes, I think it's important that you know the answer to all of these questions, and you can at least know where to look for this, and so what is the according certification body. Okay, now we are at the end of our training. So this was the last part. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you could learn a lot in this training and it was useful. Yes, I can say only the welcome to the advanced parts of the training on the M2M and the consumer devices and the profile interoperability training, so the content of the profile. This is also possible to learn this through the training materials. And yes, let's go just one to the agenda, so to have a good feeling of what you've done, so what you learned. So we learned about the eSIM technologies, concepts to concept and profiles, the architecture of the M2M and the certificates, the architecture of the consumer devices, and yes, the security aspects. And today we learned about the international standards and the certification schemes. Then I say goodbye to you. If you have some questions, please send me an email. And yes, welcome to the next parts of the training, so the advanced parts. Thank you. Bye.